Judah Hoover, what's up, man?
Not much, Mr. Josh Weidman. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Facebook, how you doing?
Can I tell you something that I did yesterday? So a lot of people know that I run a local real estate investors club, and I usually email that group, once a week, 2 to 3 times a week, sometimes. Usually average about 5 or 6 emails goes out to that distro a month. And it is just 100% me typing. I don't have any, it's not like it's an email newsletter where I have a specific formula or anything like that I follow, or that I use templates or anything. And I just, it's a conversational email from me, and I absolutely love it. I've done it for a long time. And I had one of my highest open rate. Usually it's double my open rate yesterday, because I haven't emailed everybody in a while. And because, we haven't been meeting in person, and this has kind of been the medium in which I have been conversing with people. And I had more people read that email than tune in on average to one of our shows. And it just reminded me of a time pre-COVID when I would email everybody and talk to them that way instead of talking to people here on this show. So if you are not on my email list, if you did not get an email from me yesterday, which is another way that I produce content and send out content and try to be funny and witty and original. Emails are usually 600 to 800 words long, so they're not super long, and they just come right from the desk of Judah Hoover. Shoot me an email and slide into my DMs and say, hey, Judah, put me on your email list, and would love to email you guys.
Yeah, awesome. Wonderful. So everybody in Facebook land, thanks for joining us today on the Build and Grow with Real Estate show. Listen, today we got some good stuff. Yesterday, we started our Deal or No Deal week, which is pretty exciting. I've got one person that reached out to me about sharing a deal. I mean, I think there's a lot of wobbly knees when we're talking about deal or no deal. Right.
I think so too. And that's the other thing that's the whole reason I brought up that I emailed out to everybody is I emailed out to everybody. Everybody said, hey, it's great to talk to you. Great to be hearing from you. And, told me kind of what they're working on. But, and I got some responses for deal or no deal. So keep on reaching out and letting me know about that. But I got to tell you, I was surprised how many people reached out and said, I'm not doing deals right now. I don't know what's happening next. I don't know what's coming. I'm afraid to rehab and sell, and I'm afraid to rent out properties. I got to tell you, you got to make hay when the sun is shining. Right now is the time to be doing deals.
Well, I think you're right to a certain extent, Judah. I mean, I think there's a lot of reasonable, conservative caution, right? There's a lot of reasonable caution in the market. And right. I think the real question here, and we've debated back and forth for weeks about this, when do we go from that aged high-end market to begin a decline? And how big of a rehab do I really want to do and get caught in the middle of it?
Right.
You know what I mean? Today, we're going to look at some two different types of cash flowing deals. And I think that this is a good indicator for people to really take a look at the numbers, and especially with cash flow deals. There's so many different ways to jump into a real estate investment. And you're flipping. If we get a downturn and you're flipping and you don't buy right and the construction costs go over budget and you can get stuck, right? You can get caught with your pants down and you can lose money. With a cash flow deal, if you know the numbers up front, you know what they're going to be, and you're buying it, in essentially turnkey, condition. If the cash flow is a cash flow, it makes sense. You know what I mean? It's not, a downturn doesn't hurt you. It's a temporary loss of paper equity, especially if you're looking to just make money. Make money.
I was talking to a guy about that today. And this morning at 9 a.m., I walked a property with an individual, and he's thinking about either giving it to me to rent or giving it to me to sell. And he's not sure what he wants to do. And I said, well, listen, if you sell it, you can sell it for $175. If you rent it, you'll rent it out for about $1,300. And I was just talking with him about pros and cons. I said, what you have to understand and what you have to remember is if, because we're in a late stable market, somewhere in the next 2 months or 2 years, we're going to start a downward slide. That doesn't mean that everything's going to collapse.
Yeah.
But a house that's like this, it's $175,000, is probably going to be worth about 150. You know, it's not going to be worth $20,000, but you know, you're going to lose about 10 to 20% of the value of the house. And then what's going to happen is it's going to stay there for about 3 to 5 years and then start to come back up. So if you want to rent it, that's fine. If you want to hold on to it, just understand you're probably not going to see values like you're seeing right now for 5 to 7 years.
Yeah.
And that's on a best case scenario. So you just have to understand that just because real estate goes into a downturn doesn't mean that it loses all value.
Right.
And also, just because it goes down doesn't mean that it doesn't ever come up, because, you know, it's a 3-bedroom, 1-bath house with a 2-car attached garage in a nice suburban market in York County, actually. Good golly, like, I'm getting so many listens in York. It's crazy. And
York is hot right now.
York is really hot right now.
I've been seeing some really good deals in York.
Yeah, York. There's a lot of really good deals in York right now, and yeah, so there's lots of good stuff happening there. Anyway, the point is that it was a good. It's the kind of deal that I tell a lot of people to do, because it kind of works as, you know, a buy and hold or a rental type thing, or you could sell it and make some money. It's a house that he kind of house hacked. He bought it, moved into it. And now that he's moved out, he's like, well, what do I want to do? Sell this and make the money, or do I want to rent it out? And those are good decisions to make.
Okay, so if you guys have watched this, Judah and I both have a ton of kids, right? Like, we have flocks, right? And I got 3. So there's 2 children's stories, 2 kids stories that I love, and I think they are so illustrative of points.
Illustrative. Now we're breaking out the SAT words.
There we go. They're illustrative of points in history where there's a lot of chaos, right?
Right.
And they're 2 ends of the same spectrum. One is the emperor has no clothes, right? You got people going, can't you see this? What's wrong with you? You know, and it takes somebody really to say it out loud for everybody else to go, oh yeah, you're right. You know,
right.
That I think a lot of people, you know, I've seen myself in that role, screaming that in the past. But at the same time, you got the opposite end of the spectrum, where you have the Chicken Little stuff, where you got the cluck, 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 you know, the little chicken running around saying the sky's falling, the sky's falling. Oh my goodness, it's the end of the world, right? And the reality is, it's probably neither of them.
Right.
It's probably neither of them. We're looking at somewhere in between. I think that some more conservative investors that are kind of sitting on the sideline, not doing deals right now, I think they're waiting to see what happens at the election. Once that happens, I think we're going to have a good idea of whether we're going to have a really controlled downturn at some point in the future, or whether, you know, December 1st comes around and, God willing, we have a president on November 4th instead of, you know, we're counting ballots for the next 2 months.
Wow, that's the thing. Yeah, I mean, listen, that's the worst thing that can happen. You know, what's worse? What's worse than your candidate not getting elected? Whoever that happens to be, is no candidate getting elected. And you know, somebody actually mentioned that recently. I forget where I was hearing it, that it's not a matter of fraud. It's not a matter of voter suppression. It's not even a matter of the post office not being able to handle the ballots. It's the board of election not being able to handle the election. And we're going to be back in Florida. Like, how? I mean, I was like 20. That was like the first
2000. That was my second election. Yeah,
it was. Yeah, I think it was my first election. And first like presidential election, because I would have been like 20, 22. Anyway, the point is, the point is, it was like my first election too, I think. And yeah, it's just like drug out forever.
Exhausting. Right. And it's going to be close. It's going to be close either way. It is going to come down to it. So anyway, that being said, let's jump in, deal or no deal. I've got this set up where one of these projects is a clear, hands down home run deal.
Right.
The other one is maybe not. But what we're going to do, these are both deals, real deals from 2017. and we're going to look at them, determine whether they're a deal or a no deal. Like as we go through the project, and then at the end, we're gonna see what the projects look like today. All right.
No, I love this. I love
Yeah.
this.
All right.
All right.
So without further ado,
You don't have your other
help
screen
if I
up.
share my screen, Judah.
It would
Man.
help if you had your screen shared. Usually it's like right there, ready to go. Ladies and gentlemen, neither Josh or I are actual TV hosts. We have real full-time jobs. I'm a realtor and he's a hard money lender. So please bear with us as any clunkiness happens, as we are really just doing our level best to pretend like we know what the heck is going on. And that's about all the filler that I can offer there for you, Josh. Are you still there, my friend? Nope, you froze. Josh is no longer with us. This is excellent. All right, we are going to go back to this and we are going to remove Josh. All right. So when you look at a situation where you do I know that's ice cold that I just removed Josh like that. So when you look at a situation where you're evaluating a property and you're thinking to yourself, okay, I'm at the end of a stable market. What do I want to do? Do I want to sell this property, or do I want to just continue to hold it and rent it, or begin to rent it out? One of the exercises that I like to go through is just consider, okay, if I can put $250 a month in my back pocket, or I can put $25,000 in my back pocket, how many months do I have to rent it out to make that total that total profit? Hey, Josh, what's going on with your screen, buddy?
Technical difficulties. I think. Hold on, we're gonna try this again. There we go. Listen,
there we go.
This takes a little reboot. Sorry about that. All right. So we jump in here. We're going to look at BRRRR and turnkey deals. Now, first and foremost, let's define these. I'm not going to be long here, but we've got turnkey cash flow deals purchased near fair market value or at, right? No construction necessary. We're going to anticipate that these properties have been updated. We're buying them from Eric Brewer, right?
Right.
You already rehab them, put a tenant in place. They're currently rented. In this financial model, we're going to look at putting 20% down.
Right.
And the expenses are going to include rental licenses, utility expenses, insurance, taxes, annualized leasing costs, management and maintenance, all of that stuff. We also have a vacancy rate and everything tied in there. All right. The big difference between our BRRRR cash flow and our turnkey cash flow is going to be one of the big differences is that with the BRRRR method, we're going to anticipate a lower occupancy time frame, right? So with the turnkey, we're looking at 24 months as opposed to BRRRR, it's 12 months. And then the other big deal that's a big difference here is this is pre-construction. We're buying pre-construction, financing the purchase and renovation in cash, and then doing a cash out refi after the fact. All right.
Great. Let's jump into the numbers. That's a great breakdown between the BRRRR. By the way, BRRRR is buy, renovate, refinance, repeat.
Dude, you missed it. Buy, renovate, rent, refinance. Yes. Whatever. It doesn't matter. There's some R's in there. Exactly. Right. All right. So let's start with the turnkey deal, right? This property, it was purchased for $151,500. Total cash investment here, $38,773. That's our 20% down plus closing costs, finance fees of the whole 9 yards. And then we've got a monthly rent for this property of $14.95. This is if you watched the show last week, this is our historic Palmyra property. I used one specific property that met the median and on all those numbers.
Right.
So with this property, you got a net cash flow of $290.30. And the property value is somewhere between $150 and $200. Very likely $150.
Right.
Okay. All right.
Josh, you're a little bit broken up and pixelated, my friend. Do you have any other screens you can close down?
Let's see what I can do here. Hold on a minute.
By the way, 290. Here's one of the things that I like to do. Take 290, multiply that by 12. You get 3,480. You take that and divide it into 3,800 or 38,000, and you come up with like a 9% cash on cash return. That's not a bad straight up cash on cash return. That doesn't take into consideration two main things: principal reduction, which is going to bump that up another 2 to 3%. And principal reduction is very real way to add to your net worth, plus 1 or 2% appreciation on the property. You're probably going to see 3 to 5% over a 20-year period, annualized appreciation on the property, probably 3 to 5%, especially closer to 5% actually for a nice property like this in a nice neighborhood. So a 9% cash on cash return is going to equate to about a 20% return on your investment. Tell me where else you can get a long-term 20% return on your money. That's very hard to do in stocks, bonds, and mutual funds.
No question at all. All right. So here's our turnkey deal. Now let's take a look at the cash flow. What'd you say about 9%? Judah. Yep. Good guess, man.
Oh, I didn't know you were even gonna have this broken down and have the math here and everything.
I'm not going to go into it too much here, but this is the cash flow analysis that I use. It's a good way to look at the financials in a way that is pretty all encompassing. The only thing we don't have here is a CapEx, and I don't put that in here specifically because we already renovated the property.
Right.
On a cash flow investment, I'm going to anticipate, selling this thing every 10 years.
Right.
Recycling. So in this case, you're getting all of your money back in 10 years. That's not bad. 11 years, let's say. Okay. All right. Deal or no deal? Come on. We got to hear from the audience. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine, my friend. No. You're definitely not. Yeah. So what do you think out there if you are watching? Do you think that this is a deal, or do you think this is not a deal? Let us know down there in the comments. I got to tell you, this looks like a pretty standard turnkey deal to me. It's not a super great deal, but it is. I like it. The other thing that I would do when I was looking at a deal like this is I would seriously look at I would run an amortization schedule, because I think that on that mortgage payment, you're actually looking, I think between principal reduction and there we go. Chris is jumping in and saying he'd like to get his money back a little bit faster. Matt is saying listen, this is what you also have to remember is if your goal is to quit your day job, this isn't the deal for you. You know what I mean? This is a deal that is the as opposed to doing investments in stocks, bonds, or mutual funds. And maybe you do a deal or two like this a year with the money that you're making flipping houses, or a deal or two like this a year from the money you're wholesaling or working as a realtor or something like that. So this is more long-term, slow money, but over the course of this deal, you're going to make 20 to 30% on your money. That can't be bad.
And here's the thing about this. You said if you want to quit your day job, you're not going to quit your day job on this deal. But deals like this, very conservative, very consistent, plugging away, bread and butter neighborhood, bread and butter property, making $300 a month is not bad, right?
No, absolutely not. Especially when it's $300 a month plus $300 a month worth of principal reduction, plus about $300 a month worth of appreciation on the property. That property will go up in value about $300 a month. And you will say, well, what does that mean this month or next month or even for the summer or even the rest of the year? Well, who cares? When you sell the house, 5 or 10 years from now, and it is worth $300 a month more times 5 years, when you've paid down the principal $300 a month times 5 years, that's where you actually, make significant money on these properties.
All right. So let's look at our deal number 2, our BRRRR method. Now, I know Chris is going to like this one. All right. However, There's pluses and minuses. This deal, purchase price $40,000, renovation cost $65,000. So it's a big renovation. It's a
Right.
dated house. You figure, we talked about neighborhoods that meet the BRRRR method. We got a developing neighborhood here, right? The post reno value at $150,000. The only cash that you're going to have tied up in this thing is about $4,500. This is after your refi. It's after refi costs, all that stuff. Monthly rent is only $1,000 a month here, though. And your net cash flow, you're losing $100 a month, 116 a month coming out of pocket.
Now,
I
don't like that.
Day one, yeah, I don't like that either. Now, this is based on a 70% loan to value number.
Right.
That, I use that number because right now, getting a commercial refi on a rehabbed property, if you want them to look at loan to value as opposed to loan to cost, you're going to have to lower your loan to value number.
Right.
And so, in this case, you're losing $100 a month. You're getting $45,000 in equity. And remember, up and coming neighborhood. So let's see what this looks like. Yeah, I mean, you're losing $1,400 a year. All right. Deal or no deal?
Well, I wouldn't structure the deal that way. If I knew that I would rather that thing break even on a monthly basis so that I'm not feeding the alligator, as Ron LeGrand said. Right, give me a like, give me a love, give me a share if you know who Ron LeGrand is, by the way. I find that far too few people know who Ron LeGrand is. So you got to watch Feeding the Alligator. That's also a term Carlton Sheets used to use as well. But so I would just, instead of a 70% refi on that one, I would do like a 60 or 65% refi one. Does that make sense? So that my mortgage payment is lower and I'm break even or making money, even if it means I have more money tied up in the deal. Because if instead of like, what was it? $4,000 tied up in the deal, it's
$4,500. Yeah.
So let's say I have, $8,000 or $10,000 tied up in the deal. That's fine, but I'm not writing a check every month. That's okay, because I know where this deal is going long term is I'm going to hold it and then sell it down the road.
No, and I get that. I mean, this is an appreciation play, obviously.
Hold on, time out. Never heard of Carlton Sheets. Never heard of Ron LeGrand. I mean, these are the godfathers of our industry. Is who these gentlemen are. These are the gurus that taught the gurus who everyone's learning from right now. Like these people didn't learn from these guys. People learned from the guys these guys taught. Ron LeGrand and Carlton Sheets are. Whew.
Yeah.
All right.
Ron LeGrand's a big guy. Yeah, for sure.
He is.
All right.
He's tall too.
So what's the consensus here? You don't like the deal the way it sits.
I do not like the deal the way this is structured. I would find a different way to structure this deal.
See, Christine's at least heard of Carlton Sheets. Now, I mean, to be fair, Ron LeGrand, he's the dude with the crazy hair that, like, some people have heard
he just started doing Facebook Facebook ads again for his course.
Is he really?
He wants to be the millionaire maker. He wants to, by the time he dies, have it on his tombstone that he made more millionaires than anybody else. And he has trained so many gurus that have gone on to train so many other people that I seriously think more millionaires have been created in the United States because of Ron LeGrand than anybody else.
All right. Great. Hopefully a lot of people watching the show are going to tag us on Millionaire Makers. I'd love that. Right. But that might be a couple years down the line. All right, so we're back to deal or no deal. We looked at these properties. The big part about this BRRRR method is that you got $45,000 in equity. That's not bad. Like
that's
pulling
excellent.
Most of your money out. So now let's take a look at this. Boom. Now we're at our current value. That turnkey deal, we had $80,000 in equity growth. Right. Our cash investment was reduced by $13,000 over that time. So at this point, I'm anticipating a $200 increase in rent. So it's like $455 a month on our turnkey deal. That's pretty good. Yep. 80 grand in increased value. If you roll those rental cash flows into your initial down payment, you're down to 25,000. That's not bad. You're talking
Correct.
about almost 4 years later. Now we go to our BRRR method. The value instead of 150 is now 250. So we have $100,000 in additional equity in that property. We've got what else do we have here? Monthly rental. Okay, so now the rent has gone up $250. We're only making $65 a month, but now it's positive with a huge equity position of $145,000. That's huge.
Yep.
That's a big deal. The cash invested has actually gone up. So Judah, maybe you made the right call there. Maybe we just double the, put down an extra 5%, and now you're in at 10,000 and it stays pretty much the same. But even so, you're at a really strong position here to sell this property. And the best part is you sell this property now, and sure, you have to pay your transfer tax, all that kind of stuff, but your long-term capital gains is significantly less than if you'd have taken that, $40,000 equity position when you bought the place in a flip.
Well, yeah, I mean, also do the math there. So you have to put some sweat equity into it too, right? So this BRRRR method property, you've got to manage a rehab, you've got to know how to do that. There's some extra risk associated with it and everything like that. But here's how I do the math on a deal like that. Let's say you said this is 5 years later. These are the numbers from 5 years later.
It's 3.75 years. 3 years,
right.
and
Let's say what's the worst case scenario? Let's make it even more conservative. Let's say it's 5 years later.
Yeah.
So a way of looking at this is to say that I took a $10,000 investment, and 5 years later that's $100,000.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
Right. So what is that? What rate of return is 10,000 to 100,000?
In 5 years, it's 20%.
Well, no.
Yeah.
If you turn a $10,000 investment into a $20,000 investment, that's 100% return on your money. Right? So if you turn a $10,000 investment into a $100,000 investment, that's not 100% return on your money. That's 1,000% return on your investment.
Yeah.
And when you take 1,000% return on your money, 1,000% return on your money over a 5-year period, you have a 200% annualized return. Your annualized return is a 200%. Tell me where else you can do that. This is why you buy properties in good neighborhoods that have a mediocre to okay cash flow. And I don't want to list names, and I don't want to tell you, but some of our guests on this show, I know 5 to 7 years ago bought mediocre deals and now are selling and refinancing and cashing out and living like kings. And because if you do deals that look kind of non-sexy in good neighborhoods, you know what I mean? Not like right now. So the equivalent here is you still do neighborhoods and do deals in this neighborhoods, like do deals between 175 and 250. Like that's where bread and butter houses are right now. Yeah. Don't try to flip $400,000 houses or rent out $350,000 or $400,000 houses, but you should be buying as many $150,000 to $200,000 properties as you can. And maybe you have to ride it through the bottom of the trough, but 5 or 10 or 7 to 10 years from now, when we're at the next peak, you are going to be realizing a 200% annualized return on your money. Maybe I'm off, and maybe it's only 100% annualized return on your money. You know what I mean? Maybe I'm way off.
Well, so this is the other thing. 2017, we weren't at the bottom. We were 7 years past the bottom. That was still on the increase. We saw upticks in areas, but we're not talking about huge market cycles, buying at the bottom and selling at the top. We're talking about buying at some point along the uptick and selling at or near the top.
Like creating your own equity.
Right.
creating your own position in that property, not doing a super awesome. I mean, also look at that deal, right? You bought it for 40, you put 60 into it and rehabbed it up to the level of $150,000.
Right.
Where you didn't try to rehab it so that it was worth 170 or 190, you know what I mean, and do all the super awesome fixtures so that you could flip it and make a ton of money. You said,
But you
I'm going to
also,
make this a solid rental that I could hold for the long term.
so you also didn't rehab it so that it was just habitable. Like you
Right.
didn't put $10,000 in it and
Right.
say, "Hey, I hope somebody rents this." This is an upgraded property. When you do renovations that are based on limiting your maintenance costs for the longest period of time possible, you put yourself in a position to have a predictable outcome. When
Yes.
you have an unknown and the electric is 65 years old or 75 years old with knob and tube, and you go, nobody can see that. We'll just throw some paint on the walls. Guaranteed it's going to come back to bite you.
Right.
You have plumbing that this one I love. You got a waistline. It's made of cast iron. The likely life of a cast iron sewer line is 50 years. So that if it's 60 years and still working, good for you. That's great. But the likelihood of it busting out and cracking and causing a problem and a mess in a year or in 10 years, if you're looking 10 years, it's almost 100%.
Right.
Yeah. So just keep that in mind when you're planning your renos, when you're looking at your investments and looking to plan out here. So, all right. Yeah.
So
Go ahead, Drew.
the last thing that I want to say is both of these are great deals.
Yeah.
So I used to work for a big big turnkey provider in Harrisburg, and I was on the buy side. We flipped about 10 houses a month, or excuse me, 10 houses a month, about 80 to 100 houses a year. And I was on a team of people that we were able to accomplish that. And I had a number of investors who would buy 2 or 3 deals from us and then do 2 or 3 deals on their own, and then buy 2 or 3 deals from us and then do 2 or 3 deals on their own.
Right.
So, when you're buying a property and doing it on your own, you can make more than a 20 to 30% return, like we looked at there. If you're doing turnkey properties, you can make a higher annualized return. However, you can also lose money and do it wrong and buy the wrong property in the wrong neighborhood. And so you're going to average out potentially a 20 to 30% return anyway. It's why a lot of people end up buying turnkey providers. Buying from turnkey providers, great thing to do. Buying your own rental properties, great thing to do. You know what I mean? But even look at that BRRRR property. We had to wait 5 years till we really actually realized that growth. If
Right.
you need to quit your job tomorrow, you need to get a job in the real estate market, or you need to be a wholesaler, or you need to do something like subject to, or it's very hard to consistently quit your job tomorrow, but you can in a 3 to 5 year period do enough deals to walk away from your job. Does that make sense?
It makes a ton of sense.
That's all I got, my friend. We're 3 minutes over. Do you have any parting comments for us?
I do. Thanks to Bayshore Travis, Brandon Ritz, John Simpson LeMay. If I screwed up your name, John, I'm sorry. Brandon Keener, Jeremy Bayshore, and Josh Stoll. Thanks a lot, guys, for liking us. If everybody else, if you enjoyed our program today, make sure you give us a like and a share. We'll be back here at noon tomorrow. I actually won't be here. I'm going to a school function with one of my kids. So Judah's going to be at the helm, and we'll be rocking and rolling. Thanks, guys, so much for joining us. We'll be back here tomorrow. Take care.
See you, everybody.